Specflow tutorial part 4, Gherkin and a feature file. In part 3 we have learned about a Specflow configuration. So in this session we are going to learn about a Gherkin feature files, step definitions and a binding. So let me start this session. When we guys are talking about a BDD, behavior driven development model, we also talk about two words, Gherkin and a feature files. We use a Gherkin language to write the test cases. And where are we going to write the test cases? We are writing the test cases in a simple plain English language in the feature file. Let me flip to Visual Studio to understand with an example. So we already have a one project. That project is a Specflow session project, and this Specflow session project is having a few packages related to a Specflow NUnit, and this Specflow NUnit is having a different packages related to a NUnit and a Specflow. It means we can use these packages to write and execute the test cases. If we see, we already have a Specflow.json file, and whenever we want to set the configuration of the Specflow, then we are going to do it here in this Specflow.json file. So when we guys are talking about writing the test cases, the first thing come in our mind, where are we going to write the test cases? So the Specflow provides a template to us where we are going to write the test cases. To have that template, what you need to do is right click on the project, say add new item. And we can see we have the Specflow option available under the install tag, and this Specflow option is having a different templates. So these items are nothing but the different templates which we use to perform the actions. One is the Specflow feature. So if you talk about Specflow feature, we use this Specflow feature to write the test cases. If you want to write the test cases in a Dutch and a Netherlands language, and you want to write in the French or the German, so there are the few combinations available with us to write the test cases in a different language. But the default, the template for the feature file is English. If you want, you can select this, otherwise you can select this as well. So the result will be same. So let's select this Specflow feature file template, and here we need to provide a name as well. So provide the name login dot feature. So the extension related to a Specflow feature files is the dot feature. So whenever you write the name, you need to provide the extension of the file as well, which is a dot feature. Now click on OK, and it will add a feature file for us. We can see we are getting a login.feature file, and this feature file is having the extension which we call it as a dot feature file. We are also getting a green icon related to a login.feature file, and this shows Specflow is properly installed in our project. We took the dot feature template, and the Specflow already provided a default template to us. So these are the different scenarios, as well as we have the name of the feature file. So whenever we are going to write the test cases, we are going to write in a Gherkin form, or you can say the Gherkin supports different languages. You are going to write the test cases in a simple plain English language. And if you talk about a Gherkin, Gherkin has its own keywords, or you can say the Gherkin provides a structured way to write the test cases. The Gherkin also follows a behavior driven development model where it is having a different keyword. So if you talk about a feature file, whenever we are going to automate a one feature, we need to write the name of that particular feature. To have the feature name, what the Gherkin is providing to us, Gherkin has its own keyword. So whatever the line which you are going to write it here in this dot feature file, which is related to a Gherkin, we are going to use, or you can say we are going to start the line with the Gherkin keywords. So first keyword you will be writing it here in the feature, that is a feature. So this feature is going to represent the feature of the application. So right now we are going to write the test cases for the login functionality. We can give the name of the feature as a login. Here you can describe the things about the feature, what type of the functionality which you are going to cover it here in the login. So we can say this helps to test the function of login. So we have used a keyword, the feature keyword, and we have given the name of that particular feature. And then we have written a few lines related to a particular feature. We have described the feature as well. So every feature is having a different test cases, or you can say we have different scenarios. To represent the scenarios, the Gherkin provides another keyword to us. We call it as a scenario. We have a different keywords right now available with the scenario. One is scenario, another is scenario outline, the scenario templates, and the scenarios. So we are going to use a scenario right now. Scenario outline, scenario template, and the scenarios we are going to learn later in the sections. So let's use this scenario. So whenever we use a scenario, it means we need to provide a name of the scenario. Take an example of, we provide the name of the scenario is login with valid credentials. So we have provided the name of the scenario, login with valid credentials. To achieve the scenario, what we need to do is we need to write different steps. For the steps, we also have a few keywords. One is the given keyword. Given I am on the login page. So whatever the steps which you are going to write it inside or under the scenario, those steps are going to start it with the Gherkin keyword. So whatever the steps, whatever the lines which you are going to write it here in this login.feature file by using the Gherkin, you need to use a Gherkin keyword to start it. Given I am on the login page, and after writing the given I am on the login page, what action you will be doing it? You will be saying when I enter username, and then again you are going to write it when I enter password and when I select login, and then I verify successful login. So we have written a few steps here with the help of the given, when, and then. So again, the same way we have used a given keyword to write the step, we are also using a when keyword to write the step. When I enter a username, when I enter a password, and when I select a login, and then I verify a successful login. So here we have a three different type of the keywords which we are using it: given, when, and then. If you talk about the given keyword is going to represent the current state. When you are saying I am on the login page, it means so this is the current state of your action. And then we are using a when keyword. So when keyword we use whenever we are performing some type of the action on the application. Here we are saying when I enter a username, I am performing some actions with the help of the when keyword. And we use a then keyword to verify the result of our actions. Here we are using a when keyword to perform the action, and after performing the action, what will be the output? That output we are using to verify with the help of then keyword. Then I verify a successful login. We have written the scenario, and inside the scenario we have written the steps as well. So if you talk about these steps are right now only simple plain English language. To perform some actions, what we need to do is we need to write a piece of code for these steps which we have written it here in the plain English language, and that piece of code we need to associate with the steps which we have written it here. To have the association with that piece of code with these steps, we use a one terminology. We call it as a step definitions, because whenever you associate some particular step of lines which we have written it here with the code, we have some format as well. To have the format to generate a step definitions, what we need to do is Specflow provides a methodology, or you can say Specflow provide a mechanism. With the help of that mechanism, we can generate a step definitions. So right click on this and say generate step definitions. Here we can see we have this pop-up window where it is saying generate step definition skeleton a Specflow. So this pop-up window created and generated by the Specflow, and this Specflow listing out all the steps which we have written it here in the steps. So these steps are not having a corresponding step definition, so that is the reason behind it. All the steps are coming it here. So if you want, you can uncheck the steps if you don't want to generate or create a step definition for this particular step. But right now we are going to generate a step definitions for all the steps which we have written it here. And here we have a different buttons. One is a copy methods to clipboard, another is a generate, and these buttons have their own actions as well, own functionality. When you click on generate, it is going to create a class at the backend, and then it is going to create a step definition. Another is copy methods to clipboard. So this button is not going to create a class for you, but it is going to provide all the methods, all the step definitions on the clipboard, and whenever you want, paste it in any of the class. So let's do one thing. Let's click on copy methods to clipboard, create a class, right click on project, add class. Here you can provide the name as a login. So we have created one class. This is a login class, and inside the login class, what we are going to do is we are going to paste the code or the step definition which we have copied from the pop-up window of the Specflow. Let's do one thing. Let's commit here and control V, and we can see we are getting all the step definitions, those we have copied from that particular pop-up window of the Specflow. So this is the proper syntax provided by the Specflow to us. Whenever you want to have a step definitions, then you need to have a proper syntax as well. So right now we are getting a syntax error. We need to import a namespace of a tech talk Specflow. Click on this given and say alt enter, and we can see we have this tech talk Specflow. So this is the namespace. We need to import it in our class, and we can see the moment we have imported this tech talk Specflow namespace in our class, error goes away. Now we have the step definitions with us, and if we commit here in the login.feature files, right now these steps coming purple in color, it means we don't have a corresponding step definitions of these steps, but we have already added the step definitions here in this login class. But what is the reason behind it? We are not getting the impact or the reflection here in this login.feature file. Once they have the corresponding step definitions, once these steps have an association with the step definitions, then this will not be purple in color. One keyword we need to write it here in the login class on the top of the name of the login class. We call it as a binding keyword. So this binding keyword is another type of the hook. So this binding keyword, whenever and wherever you use, the Specflow engine able to identify the code which we have written it for the Specflow. So that is the reason behind it. I am saying binding on the top of the class name. And if we commit here in the login feature, we can see we are not getting steps purple in color because we have added the binding tag or binding hook on the top of the class name where we have a different step definitions. And if we remove again here this binding, and if we go back here in the login.feature file, we can see all steps purple in color. So let's commit here, Control Z to have a binding tag, and if we come back here in the login.feature file, we can see all steps not purple in color. It means they have their corresponding step definitions. To verify the corresponding step definitions, we can do another thing. Right click on the step and say go to definition, and we have reached it here. It means all steps which we have here in this scenario have the binding corresponding step definitions. At the end, we can say whatever the step definitions you are going to write it, you need to write it in the given, when, and the then statement as well. Definition of the given: put the system in a known state when steps are used to describe an event or an action, and we use a then keyword. Steps are used to describe an expected outcome or a result. For each step which we have written it, we need to have a corresponding step definition in the class, and that class needs to have a binding tag, or you can say the binding hook at the top of the class name, which we have it as a binding. So whenever the Specflow see the binding keyword on the top of the name of the class, then the Specflow consider that class as a Specflow class. Each step mentioned in the feature file must bind to the corresponding step definitions, the step definitions that automate the scenarios at the step level. If you talk about the additional resources, I have already created one course that is on the Udemy, and that course help you to learn a professional automation framework creation with the C#, Specflow, and the Selenium. So that course is going to help us to create an enterprise level automation framework with the different design patterns, builder design pattern, singleton design pattern, a strategy design pattern, and dependency injection design pattern. So this is the one of the most important design pattern where we guys are not creating the object with the help of the new operator. So this dependency injection design pattern helping us to create the object without utilizing a new operator. Another is a IOC design pattern. So these all design patterns helping a automation framework which we have created in this Udemy course, making a more robust and a more reliable as well. So this course help us to build the thought pattern for designing and targeting the framework, and this course also help us to build the capabilities to understand any complex code base. So after completing the course, you will able to create your own professional level automation framework. After completing this course, you will able to create your own professional level automation framework from the scratch, not with this language but with the other languages as well, because a framework development is not dependent on any of the language. So framework code also uploaded with the course. If you want, you can enroll that particular course on the Udemy. Please subscribe this channel to have the notifications of a new automation related sessions.